Okay, here we are with my royal blunder. I was trying to, here we put a new toilet in and I broke this flange, this plastic piece here, and tried to proceed to rip it out, which was a big mistake because it is glued to the pipe down here. So I met with my consultant Gia today at the office and came up with this plan. I took my saw, cleaned the flange up, made a cut here, made a cut here. Got these flange repair kit brackets, bolted them from underneath. I have bought a new flange, cut the sleeve off of it, or the piece that goes down into the drain pipe, and then cut it to match these cuts. I've got that down in the garage on the vise, and I have drilled holes in it, and now I have to trim the excess bit out of the collar, and then I'll be bolting it here and here to match these up. So let's go take a look at that now. Okay, so here's the piece of the new flange that I adjusted. Made a cut here and here with my handy RotoZip cutting tool, and took off the sleeve from the back. This is the sleeve. It fit kind of like this, and that's where the pipe fits in. The pipe's already there, so I'd cut that away, match this up with the PC shell upstairs, cut that away here and here. And now I've got some excess plastic right in here that I've got to trim out so that this piece matches up perfectly with the other one. And then where you saw those steel brackets, those will be bolted here and here where I previously drilled a hole for each, and I'll have the bolts and washers go up through that. So next step is to take the saw fitting off of this, and I'll put a speed saw bit on and take this piece of plastic out. Okay, so now we're ready to trim the plastic. We just got to take this ring out right here, and I'm going to use the speed saw that you saw with the attachment earlier. Here's the cutting tool. I've taken that off and put in this bit. Now what this does is it looks like a drill, but it actually acts like a saw. So once it goes into the plastic, I can move it around and carve out this niche. So keep your fingers crossed and stuff just goes well, because I don't have another one of these. The flange, I mean. Voila! Came right out. It's not bad. As you can see, we've got some ragged edges, but we're going to take a palm sander to that in just a second. We'll smooth that out. Excellent. I can tell you right now, having the right power tool to do the job makes all the difference. This is actually going fairly well. Of course, the proof is in the pudding. We won't know until the toilet's in and the water's not draining on the floor that all this is working out. But let's go ahead and with this. Just going to smooth out these edges here. Okay, that should do it, and I'm sure the neighbors are happy that I'm taking the power tools inside. Got a fairly smooth cut here, and let's go on to the next phase, which is bolting this piece in. Welcome to Toilet Cam. Did this great? Okay, so we've cut our piece here like so. It's going to fit in just like that. Now the challenge is what I have to do is get these bolts in here, up through this hole and this hole, through these holes, put the washer on top, and then tighten it down. Then going to put some silicone adhesive around the whole thing to give it a watertight seal, and then we'll be putting the gasket down in here that attaches to the toilet and will give us hopefully a watertight seal. And what I probably haven't mentioned at this point, and I'll show you a bit later, is the plumber solution, which is to take all the kitchen cabinets down, drill up through the ceiling, cut a big hole, and repair the pipe that way. I'm not saying that won't happen. It may. But if this works out, it's going to save probably a few $1,000s and a lot of time and headaches. So here we go. So first we need to get a little lift underneath there to get the bolt in. I'm going to take my pry bar, and there's a little play in this so I can get my bolt in. Now I want to be careful with this and be somewhat fragile because I don't want to disturb any of the piping underneath or break anything else. Had enough blunders. There goes the washer, and then the nuts tighten it down. And I drop the nut. Nice. Fortunately, stuffed paper towels down the drain here to keep the smell out. It's working a little bit. So I've got to get enough thread on this nut to this thing to take. Now it worked when I tested it. Well, the heck with the washer. I'll take my ratchet wrench and tighten it down. These things are awesome because they work like a socket wrench, but like a regular wrench as well. So I can get that as close as I can in there. Tighten that down. Leave that a little bit loose so I can get my other one in. Come over here, lift it up. I've got to get my other bolt in. This is the tricky part. It's also the part where you wish you had a third hand. Now I can't really. There we go. Let's put this guy over here on there. Now we're talking. Okay. All right, my cuts have worked out fairly well. Tighten this down. Now, a plumber would look at this and go, dude, you are nuts, because you can't put a wax ring over this and expect these cuts to be watertight. Well, I don't expect them to be watertight. What I've done is purchased a waxless gasket. The way this works is it's kind of like a flange or a tube that goes up. It adheres to the bottom of the toilet. Will go down into this hole so that the water never actually has to touch the flange at all. It goes right down through it. It acts like a sleeve. So that's what I'm banking on, because if that doesn't work, oh, it's all over. So we'll see. Okay, we're back at toilet 10. All right, the next thing I have to do is put the bolts in, these bolts, up through these holes. And what these bolts do is actually hold the toilet in place. So once the bolts are in, you put the toilet bowl down on top of it, and you can tighten it. But there's a piece missing, the gasket obviously. My concern is looking at where these holes are where the bolts come up through. They are not necessarily perpendicular. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and put these bolts in. I'm going to uncrate the new toilet and just see if there's enough play that I can keep the toilet straight. My concern is that if the bolts aren't aligned correctly, the toilet will be cockeyed in its positioning here, and that's something I want to avoid. I also would like to avoid having to recut all this and reposition it, so we'll see what happens. So first thing is, let's just get the bolts in. I'm going to use my pry bar again, come up through here, turn it sideways. Same on this side. Okay. And then I have these little temporary washers, and put them down on top of the bolt to hold it in place while you put the toilet down. So put these in. That just holds the bolt upright so that you don't have to have 5 pairs of hands holding bolts and toilets and all that stuff. So I'll get these in position. I want this one as high as it can go on the right, as low as it can go on the left. Now I'm going to uncrate the new toilet bottom piece and just do a test fitting and see where this falls. Now we're really toilet cam. Isn't this cool, 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 cool? Alright, I've unboxed the new toilet. I have put it down on the bolts, and it seems to be fairly straight, which is a great relief. It means I don't have to recut anything or reassemble all the stages that we've done so far. So now I'm going to take this off, and it's time to do some waterproofing. Now, as I explained before, this gasket actually goes down into the drain pipe here, which hopefully will eradicate the need for any of this to be extremely watertight. However, I don't want to take any chances, so I'm going to seal this off where the plumber cut some of the pipe away today. Thank you very much. And also seal up some of this. And I'm going to use some silicone adhesive and duct tape to do that. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. All right, we're ready to do a little waterproofing in here. There's places where the plumber cut, and then obviously places where I cut the flange and the new flange to join them together. So I'm going to, with a combination of trusty duct tape, some silicone-based caulk adhesive, and my very expensive Italian palette knife that I use for oil painting, I'm going to try to seal some of this up. And again though, I'm hoping not to depend on that too much, because I can use my trusty gasket that actually extends beneath the area that has been cut, so that hopefully none of that will ever get wet. And because I'm using my trusty Italian palette knife, I might actually post this video on my art blog. We'll see. Depends on how this goes. Anyway, so the first thing I have to do is take the icky paper towel out that was keeping the fumes from rising up from the sewage. And so this is kind of a gross part of this job, because it's not smelling great, let me tell you, because this goes right down to the sewer line. So first thing I'm going to do is take some mineral spirits to clean off the surface. Paper towel. So I've got a nice clean surface that my tape will stick to. Duct tape is a wonderful thing. And if you're wondering, is this up to code standards? No. Do I care? No. All I care about is that it's watertight and my kids have a place to go to the bathroom. Okay, so we'll take a piece of duct tape here. I'm going to line the collar first. And I want a nice, neat positioning, so I'm going to cut the tape where the collar indents, so I don't get a lot of buckles and wrinkles that are going to get in the way later on. Just want to seal up this whole area here. I'm sure if the plumber that cut the holes in the ceiling downstairs earlier today were to see me do this, he'd be freaking out. I may make him a DVD, particularly if this works. And that's the fun thing about home improvement. You never know if it's really going to work or not. But you sure are happy when it does. I'm just doing a little test fitting here. Okay, I think it's going to work. Okay, I'm going to take my caulk and just seal up some of these seams. I'm going to be very generous about it. In a second you'll see that's why I've got the palette knife up here. And it's pretty messy at this point, but I don't really care. As long as it just has to seal things up, that's all. Okay. And this is where my trusty Italian palette knife comes in. I'm just going to use that to spread this stuff out, kind of like icing a cake. I think this might actually work. Who knows? We'll find out soon enough, won't we? And if it does work, the plumber's going to be pissed. If it doesn't work, the wife and I are going to be pissed. So far so good. Like I said, it's like icing a cake. Just trying to smooth it out and make sure that all the areas are covered. As smooth as they can be. Okay, I think that does it. I'm going to let this dry a little bit and then we'll move on to the next step, which is installing the gasket. We're back in this moment of truth. It's time to put the gasket into the homemade flange here. Got a spacer on this. The caulk is dried. This gasket's going to go down into the hole, sit 1 inch above the flange, and then we're going to put the toilet on. Dun, dun, dun. So, here we go. And the instructions say, gently push the gasket into the hole until there's a 1 inch space. Which I'm going to measure. A little bit more. Okay, that's about it. Now I'm going to take an extra step of prevention here and make sure this doesn't leak, and I'm going to put a bead of silicone adhesive around this rubber gasket so that when I put the toilet down, there's a nice seal. The beater cock is on. It's time to set the toilet bowl into place. Keep your fingers crossed. If I start cursing, I apologize in advance. So you just have to line up the bolts with the hole. So I'm kind of looking through the holes on the side here. Got the right one. And the left one. Now pushing down. Did it. And we're not. See. All right, much better. Okay, next step is to fasten the bolts on the bottom here to make sure we've secured the toilet bowl to the floor securely. Secure it securely. You have to put the nuts on and the washers and then tighten this puppy down to the floor. So first we put on the snap washer and the brass washer, and then we have to start to thread the nut on the bolt. And this has to be done carefully because we kind of want to apply an even amount of pressure to both sides at the same time. So I'm just going to tighten that as much as I can by hand, and then I'm going to do the other side. Okay, now it's time for our wonderful ratchet wrenches. And I've got the bolt on the other side, tighten it by hand. And I'm going to start to gently apply pressure to both sides. You start to tighten it down. I feel a little tension. It's still not all the way down yet. So I'm going to get that nut all the way down to the washer. Fascinating, isn't it? Okay, it's pretty secure at this point. So now we can snap off the tips of these bolts so we can put the caps on. And the instructions say you should be able to just snap it off, like so. And that cap will fit down there nicely. Nicely. Here we go. Voila, I give you the toilet bowl. Now, for the tricky part, we got to put the tank on, hook up the water, and then see if this all works. Okay, well this looks pretty straightforward. Here's the tank, bolts on the bottom, rubber gasket. That's all going to go in there. And then we'll apply our nuts and washers to the bottom to secure the tank. And here we go. Okay, I've got all the washers in place. I'm just going to tighten these down, and again I'm going to rotate around to get even pressure before I tighten them all completely. Make sure we've got a good, nice, watertight seal. It's the moment of truth. The tank is on. I've connected the water supply. I'm ready to turn the valve. And we're going to see water rush in here and hopefully stay in there and not come out on the floor. Cross your fingers, say a prayer, do what you got to do. Here we go. Looks good down here so far. By the way, did I tell you I hate this floor? Now we wait. Wait for it to fill. And the water cut off. Good sign. No leaks. I just wanted to test it and make sure it's going to work okay. And for the final moment of truth, the flush. I rule.